Senator Russell, do you think that the president's decisions on Vietnam policy that he announced last week went far enough or too far?
Well, I think they were about right for the conditions as we find them today. Of course, this situation in Vietnam presents the most frustrating problem that has ever confronted the American people. And the question of how many men you should send or how many men you should call up is one of judgment. I think that that's about as many as we can send and support over there at this time, and we're going to have to put get many ships out of mothballs and put them back into use on the seas if we support many more men than those that he has already tabbed for service in Vietnam.
Live from CBS Washington, Face the Nation, a spontaneous and unrehearsed news interview with Senator Richard B. Russell, Democrat of Georgia, Chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator Russell will be questioned by CBS News correspondent Neil Strauzer, John L. Steele, Washington Bureau Chief, Time Life News Service, and CBS News correspondent Martin Agronsky. We shall resume the questioning of Senator Russell in just a moment.
CBS Sports is your TV ticket to the important events, the championship events, the year round. This summer, for example, CBS Sports presents an exciting array of Yankee baseball, bowling and tennis classics, sports with Pee Wee Reese, and for the first time, specially selected National Football League exhibition games. Come September 19th, all eyes will be on CBS for the official opening of the NFL season, and every weekend throughout the fall for top gridiron action. The championship game, the playoff bowl, and the Pro Bowl round out our exciting NFL picture. Just as CBS Sports Spectacular begins championship coverage of championship events the world over. The CBS Golf Classic, the Masters, and the Carling World Open are three top golf tournaments. And of course, no year would be complete without the famed Triple Crown of racing. Yes, the important events, the championship events, are yours the year round on CBS.
Senator Russell, you said a week ago that the United States has made every conceivable blunder from a military standpoint in the Vietnamese War.
Well,
do you still feel that way, sir?
I think we've made a great many blunders, but I didn't say exactly that. I said we have made every conceivable blunder, and by that I went back to the time that the fighting started over there 20 years ago. We've made our fair share of them, but I think the French and their strawman Baudin and even Diem and this long succession, rapidly moving procession of successors to Diem have all made mistakes. Our greatest mistake there has been in overemphasizing the military and not putting sufficient emphasis on the civilian side. The people there don't have much sense of nationalism to start with. And no cause can ever win that hasn't got a champion that the people admire. Whenever people go to calling their leader Uncle, you'd better look out. Uncle Ho, Uncle Mao Zedong, and all these others all through history. When they have a man in whom they have implicit confidence, you're dealing with a very dangerous enemy.
You feel, Senator Russell, that they have more confidence then in the opposition, in the Viet Cong, the majority of the people in South Vietnam, than they do in their own government? Is that?
I'm frank to say, while my experience over there had been limited to hours and not days, that I think that it'd be highly likely that they'd vote in a plebiscite to place themselves under Ho Chi Minh rather than any one of those that are in control there now. How many people do you suppose know the present leader in South Vietnam, General Ky or Kai? He was there last I heard of it 2 or 3 days ago, and I don't suppose they've had any coups since that time, but very few people know him, and very few people have any desire to die for him, and very few people know whether or not he would give them a fair form of government if he were permanently installed as leader and peace were restored. one of the vital things there is getting a stable civil government. Unless we get that base, this war can run on there interminably.
Senator, if I understood you correctly, you said you felt that if the people voted today, they would vote communist. Now, if that is the case, and if there is evidence in that direction, why are we there at all? And why do we increase our commitment?
Well, we are there because we were invited in. I no need of threshing old straw. I was one of those who didn't think we should go in there. I have never been able to understand the attitude of those who are demanding an all-out war against communists 10,000 miles away when we have a terrible logistical problem in supplying our people, not only supplying them, but getting them there and bringing them back when they're wounded. Yet they look with complete indifference on the construction of a great communist bulwark, a fortress 90 miles off our shore in Cuba. I can't reconcile that, but many people evidently don't have any trouble in making a great deal of difference. We're there because the government invited them in there, and no plebiscite's been held, so we don't know.
Well, Senator, you're one of the Senate's leading experts on military affairs, and
thank you.
I wanted to ask you in that connection whether the loss of Vietnam would be a very rude and very great strategic blow for us, perhaps costing us further in the Southwest Pacific and Southwest Asia.
I think that as of today, that the loss of South Vietnam would be a worse blow to our world prestige and to our reputation for keeping our word under all conditions than it would be from either a strategic or a tactical or an economic standpoint. I don't think it has any value strategically, and if we can depend on our missiles to defend us from here, well, we don't have to have South Vietnam to hold back the hordes of communism. I'm thoroughly familiar with the domino theory that if South Vietnam falls, that all of the others fall. I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't agree with that completely. But I think that our chief stake today in South Vietnam is to show the world that when the United States pledges its honor and its word in any written document to carry out any treaty or agreement, even if we're mistaken in signing it, that we will do it. Because if our word isn't good in South Vietnam, it isn't good anywhere else around the world. And
Senator
our
Russell.
position of world leadership will topple.
Senator Russell, since you take that view, are we now on the right course? Are we doing enough to win the war and protect our prestige and word in South Vietnam?
No, I don't think that we've done enough to now to win the war, but one of the main things that I'm apprehensive about is the fact that they will dump an undue proportion of this war on us. Now, the Vietnamese still have a great many soldiers there. We have spent billions of dollars supplying them. We're spending between $2.5 and $3 million a day there now. We're even paying the officials of their government. And I have been very much concerned lest they drop out of the fight and leave us there. In that event, I think we'd be justified in leaving. I'll be frank to say that, if the Vietnamese don't carry on the war.
Well, you first of all want a greater political effort inside Vietnam.
Absolutely. I think that we have overlooked the fact that a stable government in South Vietnam is vital to military success in South Vietnam.
Is Ambassador Lodge the man to do that?
Well, I have a great admiration for Ambassador Lodge, and my personal relations with him have been wonderful. He was a member of the committee that I took out of here in 1943, the only congressional committee that left Washington. Personally, I would not have selected him to have gone back in there, because I think that reopened some old wounds between the two factions that had clashed about the elimination of Diem as the leader of the Vietnamese people. I would have put him in a position of great trust and responsibility, but I would not have sent him back to South Vietnam.
Senator Russell, your relationship with President Johnson has been very long and very close.
Yes, you don't always take my advice, Mr.
Right,
Ferguson.
sir. That's the point I wanted to come to. Certainly, you have made all these points to the president that you're making to us now.
Oh.
What is the president's reaction when you raise this point about the lack of political effort you're feeling that we don't do enough there?
I doubt the propriety of my getting into my private conversations with the president. I never have done it. I don't do it on the floor of the Senate, and I hardly think I should on this program.
Let me rephrase it, sir. Let's not address it to the president. What could we do that we are not doing, and have you proposed this to the administration?
Well, I think we're putting much more emphasis now on the stability of the South Vietnamese government. General Taylor got in trouble there because he talked like a Dutch uncle to all of these young generals that were running these coups about one every 2 weeks over there. I think it had a good effect. He was criticized in many quarters for what he did. I think he did exactly the proper thing. And I don't know. We have over there Mr. Alexis Johnson, who is a man of vast experience in this field. We have some of our best people, supposedly our best people, in the field of diplomacy as well as in administering the aid program. But I still don't think that we have done enough. I think that we could do more. And as to the details of that, I am not familiar enough with the problem. I haven't lived with it over there. But I would like very much to have General Taylor make a full report to the president with all his suggestions as to what can be done to stabilize the civilian government. I have great confidence in General Taylor. I know it's very popular to sniff at military men, but General Taylor is a remarkable man. He's not only a great soldier, he's a great scholar, and I think a statesman.
Senator Russell, on the military side, are you one of the reasons why President Johnson did not decide to take steps that would have forced him to go to Congress, such as calling up reserves and extending enlistments? It has been so reported.
Well, I don't know whether that's one of the reasons or not. I couldn't answer that question categorically. I don't know.
Did you oppose that?
Well, I know I didn't oppose it. I did say that I thought we should fill the ranks by other means. I think we should maintain our military forces in this country, on this continent, at the same strength they were before we started sending the troops to Vietnam. We cannot afford to be caught in a situation elsewhere, such as Vietnam or the Dominican Republic, with fewer soldiers than we have at the present time. Now, the question of how you to raise them is an important one. It's my own view that it is better to get men who have seen no service and train them as rapidly as possible, because I'm a great believer in distributing the responsibility for defending this country around as widely as possible. We've seen where people have fought in 2 or 3 wars or 4 wars, whereas a man who was in the same high school class with that man had never fought in any war. And I therefore believe that the replacements should come as largely as possible from those who have seen no military service and who have made no contribution to this country's security.
Senator Russell, you also sit on the Senate Appropriations Committee. You're chairman of it. What do you think that this heightened effort in Vietnam is going to mean in terms of money? How much is it going to cost?
Well, it would be a sheer guess, Mr. Steele, but it's going to cost a great deal of money.
Well, in that
because we're 10,000 miles away from there, and the mere question of keeping those men supplied and supplying the Vietnamese, which we tried to keep as a matter of separate bookkeeping up until now, is going to run into fantastic figures. It's one of the most, it will be a highly expensive war.
Can you give us a boxcar guess?
Oh, I don't know just how many men we will send over there. But I would estimate that if this condition runs through next year and we continue to increase the forces there, it could easily reach $10 to $12 billion.
Does that mean with it an additional spending of $10 to $12 billion on the military side? Would that mean that Congress would have to cut and go lightly on the Great Society programs such as education, health?
Well, I would hope they would have the wisdom to do it. I think the security of the country comes first, but I don't know. We apparently at present time carrying on both programs simultaneously.
President,
You
is
know,
any-
every time you read in the paper about, say, well, we lost 2 planes or we lost 3 planes, that's a great deal of difference now when you lose a plane than what it was in World War II. We have very few planes that cost less than $2 million each, and many of them, with all of their electronic equipment, cost nearer $3 million. And I'm not talking about the large bombers now. I'm talking about the fighter bombers.
Senator, you've indicated that we may have to anticipate spending $10 to $12 billion more as a supplemental defense appropriation just for the Vietnam War. What guess would you make on how many more men we would have to put into the area? Now, there have been all sorts of guesses. The president now brings us up to 120,000 on the spot there. The talk in Washington, as you know, is that it'll go up to 250,000 perhaps before the year is out. Will it go to that, in your opinion? Will it go beyond that?
There's so many imponderables, Mr. Gronsky, it's almost impossible to answer that question. I've heard all of this talk, and I know, of course, that we have plans for various numbers to go under various conditions. My off-the-cuff guess, and I'm probably foolish for making it, was based on the fact that our effort in South Vietnam would escalate and would increase. I use that word escalate. It wouldn't be very popular here late. But it would increase very greatly during 1966. If it doesn't, well, it won't cost that much. If our effort's no greater than the 125,000 the president's talking about now, it won't cost anything like that much.
Would it need many more men to really win the war there, even given a good effort from the South Vietnamese?
Well, it will require a great many more men. I have not been entirely happy with this general acceptance of a figure of 10 to 1 as a requirement to win a war of this kind, 10 men on our side to 1 of the enemy. I think that shows that we have failed in our training of our special service forces, if that is true. Because if they are properly trained and have the proper proportion of the Vietnamese who know the country with them, something like the team idea we employed in Korea, I think we ought to do it with much fewer men than that. But if it requires 10 to 1, it's going to take an awful lot of American boys over there to settle it. Now, I realize now, if you just pick up, I say, the mobilized New York and Pennsylvania National Guard Division, as you've read in the press that they might do. It'd take a great many of those boys to get out there in the jungles and find one of those Viet Cong, and then you'd lose a great many of them in the process. But if we train our men to the nth degree in this special type of guerrilla fighting, I know of no reason why our soldiers shouldn't equal theirs.
You're dissatisfied with the training. Do you feel that Defense Secretary McNamara's economy program has created serious shortages in the defense program and has effectively
I'm an admirer,
damaged our military posture there?
Secretary McNamara. He has more vitality and more drive and more energy than any man I know, and a great deal of ability.
Is it directed in the right channel?
I do want to say that I am not at all happy about the status of some of our regular Army forces. I don't think that all of them have all of the equipment that they need.
How does he respond to criticism like that, Senator?
Well, he thinks they have.
Senator, where are they short? This is very interesting to me because you've watched this a long time.
I don't think I should get into the details of that. It's not in rifles. And
is it in essential equipment or is it in ponchos?
But it's in equipment that's very important to modern warfare, some of it.
Well, now, you had 2 of the most important committees in the Senate. What are you doing about this? Are you going to investigate it and try to see that the shortages are rectified?
We try and keep up with it now. We have a great deal of information on it. And Secretary McNamara, I will say this, he has done a great job. When he first came in, he did a tremendous job in improving the equipment of these ground forces, because we were not prepared to fight a conventional war at that time. And we are now prepared, but we still don't have all of the detailed equipment that we need. Now, this is the richest and greatest country on earth, and we have any excuse on earth for sending any son of American parents out to do battle in this day of weapons of tremendous destructive force, unless he has everything on earth he could possibly need by the way of material and equipment in that battle.
Are these shortages in guns and bullets, or are they in much less essential
Well,
things?
they're not in rifles and ammunition of that type there. No, there's no shortage there. We have more of those than we need.
Senator, I feel with Mr. Steele that this is a matter of enormous national interest, and we'd like to continue it with you in a moment, but there are many more things, too, that we'd like to ask you, and we'll resume the questioning in a moment, sir.
Vegetables. 1,000 pounds of vegetables. Carrots, onions, cabbage, squash. And for only $2, you can send all 1,000 pounds of these vegetables to hungry people overseas. Here's how. Mail your $2 to CARE. It will buy 12 packets of seeds, 12 packets of protein, minerals, vitamins so desperately needed in the diet of undernourished people. And for $11, you can send these 7 agricultural hand tools to plant and grow the seeds. Send CARE seeds and tools to plant a network of friendship gardens around the world. CARE seeds plus CARE tools equals food. Help people to feed themselves. Send your dollars to CARE, New York, 10016, or your local CARE office.
Senator Russell, to resume the line of questioning, your enormous experience in this area in the Senate Armed Services Committee certainly entitles you to make a very responsible criticism of our situation in Vietnam and the training and material that is available to our troops. Could you clarify that a bit more, specify a bit more what concerns you about our position there?
Well, I want to make it perfectly clear that the United States Army today is equipped better than any other army on earth. There's no doubt about that. It has the finest equipment. It has the best equipment. It has the most equipment per man of any army on earth. And our divisions that are stationed in Germany have practically everything that they have asked for. Some of the divisions, and particularly our reserve forces in this country, do not have all of the equipment that is supposed to go with a division. It's not rifles. It's not cartridges. It's not machine guns. But they don't have, for example, some of these divisions, in particular reserve divisions, do not have sufficient mobile equipment, trucks and things of that kind. And that's what I had in mind. I didn't mean to leave any impression that the Army is deficient in fighting a war, because they've got the best equipment and the most equipment of any army in the world today. But I just would like to see them have everything that goes with the table of organization of an Army division or an Army regiment or brigade or whatever entity you're dealing with.
Well, Senator, can we carry it just to one more point? Could you clarify this? And the implication of what you say, that we should have all the weapons necessary, carries us, of course, to atomic weapons and to tactical weapons. Do you or do you not have that in mind?
No, I do not. We've got them running out of our ears. That's one area where there's no shortage. We've got plenty of atomic weapons, but I think everyone knows that we're not going to fire the first atomic weapon unless it's in a moment of very great desperation, and when the lives of thousands of American citizens are involved. We have plenty of atomic weapons. I think we have the regular forces have plenty of conventional weapons.
You feel you express the consensus of the Congress, sir, when you indicate that President Johnson's decision to keep this a conventional war, what we call a conventional war today, is the right one?
Well, of course, we can't afford to use a nuclear weapon in Asia at this time. And with our world image and our position of leadership puts us at a terrible disadvantage in using atomic weapons. We almost have to save them until we retaliate against an atomic attack.
Senator Russell, in the very few seconds remaining to us, the voting rights bill, the compromise, comes back to the Senate floor this week. You weren't here for the debate. Do you plan any last-ditch stand now?
I have not consulted with those who oppose the bill in the long days of debate in the Senate. They were finally gagged in that debate. It's very evident that the votes are present in the Senate to enforce a gag rule at the present time. There's been so much feeling generated throughout the country, due largely to the acts of a few individuals, that I doubt very much that any prolonged discussion would avail.
John, I'd like to ask many more questions as you do. It's been so interesting, but I'm awfully sorry our time's up. And thank you, Senator Russell, for being with us here on Face the Nation, the concluding word of the moment.
Mr. Gunsky.
Most of the time, brakes stop cars. Sometimes, trees stop cars. And too often, other cars stop cars. But what stops the people inside? Things like dashboards and windows and seat belts. Obviously, seat belts are best because they stop you safely. Can stop at least 5,000 deaths a year, 1/3 of all serious injuries, according to the National Safety Council. That's because seat belts keep you inside a margin of safety. When your car suddenly stops, you stop the safer way. Without seat belts, no margin of safety. You keep on going to serious injury or death. So wrap your family inside the margin of safety only seat belts provide. Get seat belts now and buckle up for safety.
Today on Face the Nation, Senator Richard B. Russell, Democrat of Georgia, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, was interviewed by CBS News correspondent Neil Strauser. John L. Steele, Washington Bureau Chief, Time Life News Service, and CBS News correspondent Martin Agronsky. Next week, another prominent figure in the news will face the nation. Face the Nation was broadcast live from CBS Washington.
Boys schools are the greatest character-building institutions in our country today. Herbert Hoover. Who was Herbert Hoover? You don't know who Herbert Hoover was? Why, are you dumb? Oh, yeah, I bet you I do know who Herbert Hoover is. I bet you $1,000,000 I do. Okay, it's a bet. What did he do that was so great? I'll tell you what he did. He built this boys club, and a skillion more of them for boys all over the country. Oh, yeah? He built them? Who said so? You trying to tell me he built this building all by himself? Well, maybe he didn't build it by himself, but he helped. Maybe you're not so dumb after all. Okay, it was my $1,000,000. Here, put this on. It's worth $1,000,000.
Give to the Herbert Hoover Memorial Fund, Box 1000, Times Square, New York.